There's been a load of compromising on the road to my horizon. Yours too, George.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be where the light is shining on me, like a rhinestone cowboy. There's been a load of compromising on the road to my horizon. Yours too, George.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be where the light is shining on.
This is going to be a video about basically, this is something I felt for a long time. There seems to be a policy to try to burn more fuel, waste more fuel. There's definitely a policy to keep us burning fossil fuels. There's technology, people that come up with far superior gas mileage in cars, yet that technology is often suppressed. But part of it also, there seems to be, I know there's been a suppression of like mass transit systems. When I lived in California years ago, they used to say back in the 30s that California had a real good mass transit system, and GM bought it up and they dismantled it. And I've noticed in recent years, all these extra stoplights and stop signs that just are popping up all over the country. I mean, some lights are necessary, some stop signs are necessary, but it's like the number of stoplights and stop signs in this country have like doubled and tripled in the last 15-20 years, and it's like many of them are completely unnecessary. And this is going to be a little video I'm going to make about that subject. And this is going to be a little video I'm going to make about that subject. Okay, this is an unnecessary light here. Okay, they've never had a light here in this. There's not that much traffic, and yet they got to have an extra light. Okay, this is an extra light here. Okay, there's nothing here. There's Sam's Club, which has been here for, I don't know, a couple decades at least. They never had a light here. It's not that hard to get out of Sam's Club. And see, now I got to stop for a light that shouldn't even be here. And look at on the other side, there's nothing there. And yet they got a light here. Probably cost thousands of dollars to put this light in. It wastes probably a couple $100 in electricity or more for maintenance. And here's a guy running the light. This is a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and there's like nothing here but a gas station. This whole thing, this Miller Trunk Highway Central entrance used to have like maybe probably like 3-4 lights, the whole 5 links. A couple more like flashing red, flashing yellow. Now they've got probably about 30 lights on here now, and several of them there's like almost nothing there. I mean, there's no reason for them. Here's another light that's about useless. None of these lights used to be here just a few years ago. They've added all these. They stop and go, stop and go. At least now we're getting down to the 40-mile-an-hour limit, so you don't have to stop and go from 55. And up ahead it'll be a 30-mile-an-hour limit. Every time you have to reaccelerate your car, that's a waste of fuel, and it causes more air pollution. The thing that's going on in the city right now is this road construction. They've let the streets go in this city for like 40-50 years, and now they're repairing every single street simultaneously. They got the entire freeway shut down. There's like no planning involved. This used to be just a flashing red, yellow light years ago. Strip malls nowadays, they have like one entrance, like they create mazes. They're into creating mazes now. And there'll be one entrance into the thing. So, I mean, if you just want to drive like a few hundred feet from one strip mall, one housing project to the next, you got to drive like, go through 3-4 lights and drive half a mile out of your way to get to it. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's completely impractical. I mean, it's got to be a real problem for emergency vehicles that need to get into these mazes and stuff. I mean, it's just They have to be planning this intentionally, and I can't think of any positive reason for being only one entrance into a strip mall or a housing project. It just doesn't make any sense. This isn't just the city of Duluth that's doing all these things. This is going on all over the country, which shows me it's not just like the poor planning of one city. It's policy. It can't, if it was one or two cities, it would just be, you could say it was just poor planning. But this is going on all over the country. This little stretch of freeway here is what they call the can of worms. People have criticized this since they put it in. It's the most asinine piece of freeway I've seen in the Midwest. But the can of worms, they're going to leave it. People have been telling them to fix this for years, and that's the one spot that they're not going to fix. They're just going to leave it. This is it from a different angle. See, people come right up in their blind spot, and there's no merge lane. There should be a federal law that says, requiring at least a 500-foot merge lane, at least. I used to live in these towers, that one on the right. There's one spot, there's a stoplight right in the middle of the thing. From Minnesota to Texas, it's the only place on Highway 35 that has a stoplight. I used to see accidents there frequently. But there's a lot of traffic on it right now because they got all the freeways shut down and they got all the side roads shut down simultaneously. But usually there's hardly any traffic here, yet they still got the stoplight up. But still, you can see it's not that bad. There's absolutely no reason to have a stoplight here. This used to be a grocery store, now it's just a Goodwill, and they got Verizon there, and there's nothing else. That's all there is there. The grand finale of my tour of Duluth streets, the most screwed up streets in the Midwest. West End Mall. This was an attempt to try to restore the shabby looking West End, which is still shabby looking, but they put this stuff in. They got a stop sign every block, stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. They didn't revamp the West End. It's still a hole. It's one more thing. Here's another useless one-way street. Part of it's one way, part of it isn't, and there's no traffic on this street, so why it's one way, I have no clue. I got a little off subject talking about Duluth's problems, because Duluth has got a lot of extra problems that are above and beyond what most cities, at least in the Midwest, go. There's cities I've seen in the South that are a lot worse. There's this area between Asheville, North Carolina, and Atlanta, Georgia, that's just absolutely hideous. Memphis is pretty bad too, but the main thing I wanted to get across is the policy of burning more fuel and causing more air pollution, which seems to be a policy when you think of all the extra lights, the extremely poor traffic engineering. And speaking of traffic engineering, it's like that freeway I showed you earlier. It's like these traffic engineers are supposed to be intelligent people. They're supposed to be well educated. And you got to move up the ranks in order to become a person who designs freeways. And yet, it really makes me wonder, how dangerous some of these freeways are. If it's not done deliberately. Here's a little thing I discovered years ago. It's called a disclosure from an insider. I actually made a video of this. It's on my channel. Of the New World Order. There's all kinds of things he says here, but one thing just one of many things I'm going to say. He said, empty buildings will be allowed to deteriorate. Streets in certain locations will be allowed to deteriorate. This will create a depressed atmosphere for purportedly unfit humans. More airplane and auto accidents will occur, contributing to a general feeling of insecurity. This will also initiate more government regulations.